Okay, so some of you have speeches that you're going to be giving next Thursday, and I've heard through the grapevine that you're a little bit confused. So I just wanted to address a few things for those who are going on Thursday, and even for those who are going to be going on the Thursday after we get back from our Thanksgiving break. So you should have read chapters 12 and be reading chapter 13 this week. Those two chapters deal with emotions, and that is everything that your speech is about. You have to pick one of those emotions that's given in those chapters and try to produce that emotion, invoke that emotion in your audience. And if you've read the chapters, you'll have a better idea of how to do that. If you have not read the chapters, then it is not confusing to me why you might be confused. But you have to write the speech, so it's not just saying a speech that's already been given. You are writing it. You're not just able to make up facts. So let's look at, for instance, the emotion of pity. So Aristotle defines pity in part as a feeling of pain caused by some sort of evil, destructive, or painful, which befalls one who does not deserve it, and which we might expect to befall ourselves or some friend of ours. Okay, so they continue in this talking about pity, and they give you some ideas about it. So it can, the sight can be of natural vision, as when a small child who's very ill is actually present before you. So to invoke this emotion, if you brought in a sick child and you were talking about sickness, obviously we don't want you to do that, but if you had images, if you were trying to invoke pity, or a mental image, and that's going to be on your judging sheet, where I judge you, you'll see that, vivid language and descriptions were used to produce the desired emotion. So do you need to bring in pictures? No, you can do that with your words, but you just need to do that with your words. And so for pity, you're going to have to describe a picture that we understand, if that's the emotion you're trying to get. And the other thing it tells you is you read about pity is, so it can be injury, disease, deformity, poverty, weakness, friendlessness, and falling prey to crime. But such sufferings cannot be too close, lest they produce fear, causing us to think of ourselves rather than others. So if you get up there and you say, the emotion I'm trying to produce in my audience is pity, and then you scare the crud out of all of us, like you've done the wrong emotion. So they're telling you right here, like, don't make it so close that it could impact the people that are hearing it, but close enough that they see and understand the feeling and feel moved to pity for the person you're describing. So you see, that's, if you're reading this chapter, it's going to go through all of the different emotions. Let's look at a different one that we could do. A happy one, perhaps. Let's see, kindness. We could look at kindness. So kindness is defined by Aristotle as helpfulness towards someone in need, not in return for anything, nor for the advantage of the helper himself, but for that of the person helped. So we feel kindness when we see someone in need that we wish to help, regardless of any benefit to us. So if you were going to come and give a speech and you had a mission, a missionary, a cause that you felt like we could support as a class, you could come and give a speech and try to produce the emotion of kindness. And so it gives the idea of like seeing an elderly lady with her hands full and you feel like a kindness towards her and go and help her. So that's a feeling that you could produce. If you wanted to show that someone was unkind, you might share a story that showed where they didn't help, and that would be the opposite of that. But to produce kindness in our audience, it says we can simply present them with a need that they are able to meet and ask for their help. So that's like a very simple speech that you could give. You could find some cause, something that the audience, thinking of your classmates, knowing your audience, we talked about this, right? You have to know your audience, would feel moved to help in some way, whether that's through prayer, through finances, through spreading the news of the cause. And you could write a 3 to 5 minute speech, aim for 4 minutes, the 1 minute grace period, with an introduction. What am I going to tell you? And remember, look, we studied introductions. There are lots of ways to begin a speech. I do not recommend not having an introduction because I'm grading you on it, and I don't know how I would grade a not introduction. But you're normally not getting grades when you do a no introduction speech. But introduction, the body of your speech, which has your points, we've talked about this, division, narration, all of those things we talked about. This is just putting it all together, and then a conclusion. And you get to pick the emotion, and the book tells you how to produce each emotion. So if you're reading your chapters, you should be fine. Don't stress out about this. This should not take you more than a few hours to come up with something to say and to make points. You're not doing a sermon. You're not carrying a class. It's 4 minutes, right? It's 4 minutes of speaking. If you are wondering how you will be graded, it's page, it doesn't say in your book, but it says speech 1. I'm just going to use this form. I'm going to make a bunch of copies of this form, and I'm just going to use it to grade you. You are going to tell us the emotion you want to produce before you begin, and I will see if you produced that emotion using the book, not my own heart. Like, do I feel that way? I'm going to use some concrete evidence. And the other thing that was talked about, you also get grade on, I believe, ethos or ethos. We couldn't decide. The student was prepared, speaking audibly, clearly, with good speed and expression, maintaining ethos. So if you're like, what is that? Remember, that is your reputation to the audience. It's how you come across. Are you credible? Do you care? Are you a good person? Your moral character. So if you come up and let's say you're trying to produce kindness and you're like, look, I don't care about these kids, but maybe you will. Like, that's bad ethos. You're going to get a 0 on that. So the way you present yourself, the way you carry yourself, the facts that you share, the way in which you share them, that's all your ethos. And don't stress about it. Obviously, I don't think any of you are psychos or weirdos. And so you're just normal and kind and articulate. You're going to be fine. You do not have to have your speech memorized. You can be reading it. You just need to make some eye contact. So be familiar with it. And you need to speak slow and confidently and make the right inflections. And it's a spectrum. So don't expect perfection. It's your first speech. So I'm just proud of you for getting up there. If you have any specific questions, if you're more confused by this video, or your breathing patterns have been altered by your stress, reach out to me. We can talk through it. But it is just 25 points of your grade, and you guys are going to do great. So read your chapters and you will be ready.